So, I've made the first part of this series, which is on how to level your Heart of the Mountain, and now it's time for the second part, how to powder grind. I'm going to preface this video by saying that if you're not Heart of the Mountain 7, you should not be using this guide. Please get to Heart of the Mountain 7. If you want to know how to do that, you can watch my previous guide, which was on the Heart of the Mountain. Another thing is that I now have memberships. Right next to the subscribe button, there's a join button. You can pay every month for a bunch of special perks, including seeing video scripts just like this one early, and special badges and emojis in my stream chat. So to start out with this, I'll explain the method. The current best method for getting both powder types at once is mining around through hardstone and waiting for treasure chests to spawn from mining it. Treasure chests have a 0.2% chance at base to spawn every single time you mine a hardstone block, which can be upgraded with the Great Explorer Heart of the Mountain perk to at max 0.96%. Treasure chests can contain a variety of items, including powder. Powder is what we're after here, obviously. Each chest can contain anywhere from 80 powder of a single type to thousands of powder. It's all down to RNG. So now that you know how to obtain the powder, I'm going to tell you the setup you'll want to use. First of all is the Heart of the Mountain tree you will be using, which is being shown on screen. This tree only requires 14 tokens of the mountain, so by simply being Heart of the Mountain 7, you'll have enough tokens. So let me explain every perk now. First off, we have Mole. Mole simply allows you to break more than one hardstone block every time you mine one, similarly to Efficient Miner. This is essential for powder grinding because treasure chests can still spawn off of the blocks broken by Mole. There's a common misconception that Mole is bugged after level 51, 71, 91, 151, and a ton of other arbitrary numbers. This is false. Mole does start making super weird snaking patterns at higher levels, but still works nonetheless. It does bug at level 171, however, where it will cap at level 171's perks unless you're mining up or down, but most people will never reach this level of Mole, so it's nothing to worry about. Next, we have Powder Buff. Now, this ability is a bit annoying. Basically, it's seemingly always bugged. It's gone through phases of working and not working more times than I can count. So I'm going to include it in this tree for if you're watching during a time where it isn't bugged. If it is, you just don't put any powder into it. Anyways, if it's working as intended, it does exactly what it says it does, giving you a bonus percentage of powder. At the max level of 50, it will give you 50% more powder from chests, which is pretty huge. Again, if it works. Next, we have Great Explorer. What Great Explorer does is it increases the chance of treasure chests spawning every time you break a hardstone block. As I said earlier, at base, the chance of a treasure chest spawning is 0.2%, and Great Explorer increases that chance. It says that it gives a plus 96% chance to find treasure at level 20, but what it actually does is add 0.96% to that 0.2% chance I mentioned previously. Since it starts at plus 20%, or really plus 0.2%, every level increases the bonus it gives by 4%, or really plus 0.04%. At Great Explorer's default max level of 20, the chance of spawning a treasure chest goes from 1 out of 500 to 1 out of 86. So, a pretty huge increase. Finally, the ability Pickobulus. Those of you with a keen eye may be asking yourselves, why not use Vein Seeker? It gives mining spread, which should increase the amount of blocks you mine. To that I say, it's also bugged. The mining spread doesn't work at all. Hypixel just denies all of the cool stuff, doesn't it? Okay, so while I was editing this, some more thorough testing was done on Vein Seeker, and a few interesting things have come out of it. Vein Seeker basically is Mole. Mole is capped at 9 blocks, so therefore Vein Seeker cannot add past that point. So if you're mining 8 blocks with Mole alone, then Vein Seeker will only add 1 block to reach that cap of 9 blocks. It's still not really worth using unless you have a really low Mole level, because a lot of the time Mole won't even be able to fully proc. Anyways, even though the lore of Pickobulus implies it will only mine ores, it does work on hardstone, so you can use Pickobulus whenever that's ready for a small bonus in blocks broken. So now that you have your Heart of the Mountain, how should you split your powder between the perks? Well, if you can't instantly mine the hardstone and default ores, which need 1800 mining speed with a jungle pickaxe, just using this as an example, we'll go over what you should use and where later, you should put all of your mithril powder into mining speed until you can instantly mine the hardstone in default ores. Then, put the rest of your mithril powder into either efficient miner, if you want to clear ore patches faster, or daily powder, if you want a nice bonus in powder every day. Personally, I'd recommend efficient miner because it allows you to clear away ore patches faster so you can get back to mining hardstone for chests, and gives a nice buff to money per hour, as coal actually gives you a decent bit of money. Also, for your mithril powder, I'd recommend getting to Peak of the Mountain 5, but not going above it for now. The perks it gives are extremely worthwhile for the future mining you'll be doing, but perks 6 and 7 are just too expensive for now. You should level those with the gemstone powder you'll get from gemstone mining. For the powder splits everybody is worried about, it's Great Explorer, Mole, and Powder Buff. I put 2 lists in the descriptions which have the exact orders in which you should level your perks. One accounts for if Powder Buff works, and one accounts for if it doesn't work. If you've already started powder mining and have your perks upgraded, no worries. Simply reset your Heart of the Mountain and level them in the order according to whichever one of the lists applies at that time. Here's the setup I'd recommend for getting to 1800 speed. Glassite armor with fine ambers in each of the open gemstone slots, mining speed 1 at level 20, a heated jungle pickaxe, and mining speed 2 at level 13 or something. Alright, now that you're set up for your Heart of the Mountain and your powder, where should you powder mine? I know that I said to just break hardstone, but the places that you should do that will vary. For example, if you use a jungle pickaxe to mine the hardstone, it has a 3% chance to award you with 1 sludge juice per block broken. Each sludge juice is worth about 1,300 coins to the bazaar, which makes it pretty good for money. The other option is the precursor remnants. Treasure chests in the precursor remnants have a 2.025% chance on average to give you any automaton part, which if you remember from last video are used to obtain the sapphire crystal. The way you'll be making money off of these is selling them on the auction house. These 2 methods make around the same money per hour, but mining the precursor remnants is far more inconsistent and parts will take time to sell in the auction house. They're also easily subject to rising and falling in price drastically. There's one rather weird thing about precursor remnants powder grinding though. Because the treasure chests in the precursor remnants have less total drops in the treasure chests than in the jungle has stuff like oil barrels, sludge juice drops, and some other oddball things. Powder has more of a chance to spawn in them. Basically what that means is that in the jungle, powder drops have more other drops to compete with in the chest, so they'll drop less often. This makes precursor remnants powder grinding about 4 to 5% better than jungle powder grinding for powder. Keep in mind that this is all according to the wiki, and it could be wrong, but there's also no real way to test something of this small of a difference when there's so much chance involved. If you want to grind in the jungle for consistency or hate having to constantly auction items, I'd say it's still fine. It's a 5% buff that might not even work, nothing to freak out over. So now that you've chosen where to mine, there's still more. When you're mining in the jungle, you'll want to mine about 3 blocks below the bedrock ceiling, so you encounter as little structures as possible. Structures and tunnels are so prevalent at the lower parts of biomes that they'll make available hardstone patches much smaller, so you don't want to be seeing much of them. If you're mining in the precursor remnants, you don't really want to waste time going to the top of the biome, since the structures are so tall and big that it isn't worth the time of going to the top in the first place. And hey, as a bonus, if you find either of these 2 structures on screen and nobody is in them, you can sell them in my Discord for around 7 million coins per. You won't really be finding many though, so they don't really boost this method past jungle powder grinding for money. Now, there are a few pet options for this method. The 3 pets you can choose from are the silverfish, snail, and scatha. The silverfish just gives a nice bonus to mining experience. Even though powder mining gives pretty negligible mining experience, the boost is better than nothing. The snail will boost your profits ever so slightly because its perk Slow Moving works on hardstone. It does come with a pretty big price tag for the stage of the game you're at though, so it's really not worth it in my opinion. Finally, the Scatha's Burrowing perk will help a little bit in finding treasure chests. This is only if you're rich going into this method though, as it's not really a worthwhile buff. One thing to note is that the epic and legendary Scatha's Wormhole perks will actually override Mole something like 9 out of 10 times, making you mine significantly less blocks in total. So you're basically forced to use a rare Scatha, which only gives you 2.5% more treasure chests. Oh yeah, and as you've probably come to expect, the legendary Scatha's Gemstone Power perk does not work. It's bugged. Everything is bugged. I hate this game. Finally, the last thing here is 2 times powder events. 2 times powder, unlike powder buff, actually works on treasure chests. Seems simple, right? You just pray for 2 times powders every event, and it's nothing to pay much mind to. No. The way Crystal Hollow's events work is that they're on the same rotation for every lobby, but some are delayed by a few minutes. So what you can do is when a 2 times powder ends in your lobby, you can swap lobbies until you find another one that has a 2 times powder event and take advantage of its buffs all over again. Simply repeat this until no lobby has a 2 times powder event. Another thing to note is that you don't really have to bother going to the ceiling if you have a 2 times powder event, because it does waste a good bit of time and you want to take advantage of, 2 times powder as much as possible. It's your choice, though. So now for the rates you can expect. With jungle mining, around 4.2 million coins per hour, around 80,000 of both powder types per hour. With precursor remnants mining, around 4.3 million coins per hour, around 84,000 of both powder types per hour. So where should you grind up to? Well, that depends on the method you're going to use. Most people really hate powder grinding and want to be done with it as soon as possible, and for those people I'd recommend 2 million powder of both types. The reasoning for this is because there are methods like armadillo mining that can give 80 to 90,000 gemstone powder per hour and only need 2 million powder of both types to be efficient. If you want to get into manual mining like Ruby, I'd recommend getting 4 million powder of both types. Finally, if you want to get into something like Dwarven Mines mithril mining or Crystal Hollow's mithril mining, I'd recommend 4 million powder of both types as well. These methods still give a ton of mithril powder, but also require a lot, unlike armadillo mining. I actually wouldn't recommend mining past 4 mil powder, because while they will buff the methods you're going to do, getting powder and money or powder and XP at the same time is just better than powder grinding. So if you really want more powder, you can just get 4 mil and start doing armadillo for gemstone powder and Crystal Hollow's mithril for mithril powder. If you're armadillo mining and want to transition to something else and need good mithril powder for it, say you've been doing armadillo for a while and have 6 million gemstone powder but still only 2 million mithril powder, I'd recommend going back to powder grinding so you can get 4 million mithril powder. If you really want to, you can spam goblin eggs in the Dwarven Mines to get mithril powder that way, but keep in mind it's about 80 million coins per 1 million mithril powder, so not really worth it. Anyways, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video, and enjoy, or don't, powder grinding.